you didn't just adapt to Colombia. You married the very first woman you dated here.
Yeah, thereabouts, I'd say pretty close to that.
What was it like navigating the early stages of a relationship when Spanish wasn't your strongest language yet?
Interesting. I mean, probably better.
Because we all know the language learning process can be brutal. What's been the most humbling moment you've had while learning Spanish?
There's too many to count, man. Just like daily activity. Maybe I need to order something from somewhere, right? What am I doing wrong? You're like, what's going on, right? Got this thing. And no, you don't.
I got this thing. I got this thing. I got es lo mismo que I have y significa yo tengo. I got this thing significa yo tengo esta cosa, lo cual significa estoy bien, yo sé cómo manejar esta situación. En unos segundos vamos a analizar una conversación completa en inglés. El invitado de hoy sabe perfectamente lo que significa vivir al límite. Marty es un genio cuando se trata de ayudar a estudiantes a superar algunas de las materias más complicadas. Matemáticas, química, física y más. Pero más allá de su destreza académica, hay un lado de él que pocos conocen. Marty es músico de corazón y cambió su vida en Estados Unidos por la vibrante energía de Colombia durante la pandemia. Y se casó con la primera mujer que conoció. Ahora es prácticamente fluido en español y tiene muchas historias sobre el amor, la vida y empezar desde cero en un nuevo país. Vamos a profundizar en qué hace que Marty sea quien es y el viaje salvaje que lo trajo hasta donde está hoy. Si sientes que necesitas más ayuda para entender la conversación, puedes activar subtítulos tanto en inglés como en español. Entonces espero que estés emocionado. Yo soy Kalle Anders, tu coach de inglés y tu sueco favorito. Let's go. Marty, thanks for taking your time to come out here today.
Thanks for having me.
You're a guy who seems to easily blend left brain logic and right brain creativity, helping college students with tough subjects like chemistry and math one day and expressing yourself through music the other. How do those two sides of your identity influence each other?
It's a really good question. I think, honestly, this is a really long, discussion, but I'll try to keep it short.
We'll try to keep it short. ¿Qué dijo ahí realmente? Me encanta cuando los nativos de inglés hablan porque hablan muy rápido, es muy desafiador. Aquí dijo, but I'll try to keep it short. But I'll try to keep it short. Pero yo voy a tratar de mantenerlo corto. La respuesta. Para construir una oración en el futuro en inglés, usamos la estructura I will. Y es muy parecido al español, yo voy a. Pero en inglés la contraemos, entonces decimos I'll try to keep it short.
Well, I'll try to keep it short. But I think a lot of people tend to look at music and, chemistry, math, these kinds of subjects as very disparate things.
Disparate, vocabulario avanzado. Esta palabra significa dispar, lo que quiere decir algo esencialmente diferente, que las personas típicamente piensan que la música y la matemática y la física son cosas esencialmente diferentes, que son disparate.
These kinds of subjects as very disparate things, right? But music to me is kind of in the same sort of boat, right? It's not necessarily a cold, hard kind of science chemistry and things like that. But I do find that I think a lot of the same way when I do music, right? I like music because I get to have a bit more creativity, of course, right? I get to experiment and have fun with things, whatever.
I get. El verbo get es muy común entre los nativos y puede significar un montón de cosas. Obtener, por ejemplo, yo obtengo la habilidad de poder hacer tal cosa, o yo tengo la posibilidad de poder hacer tal cosa. También puede significar conseguir, o llegar, o lograr, por ejemplo.
Of course, right? I get to experiment and have fun with things, whatever. But it is very calculated. It is very much in a lot of cases, I feel like I'm literally doing math sometimes. I really do. It might sound kind of weird, right? But that's kind of how it works for me. So I don't really see it as a separate thing. I see it as okay, it's just another place for me to apply logic, apply math principles in some ways, but have more flexibility, have a lot more just fun with it necessarily. I like math, don't get me wrong, but
Don't get me wrong. Don't get me wrong. Otra vez usa el verbo get en esta expresión, don't get me wrong. ¿Qué significa esto? Significa no me malinterpretes, no me obtengas mal. Sería literalmente traducido, pero la expresión quiere decir no me malinterpretes. Don't get me wrong.
I like math, don't get me wrong, but music is a different place.
Okay. You made a bold move by relocating to Colombia during the pandemic, and you eventually settled in a small town outside of Medellin. What drew you to the Colombian countryside, and how does life there compare to what you imagined?
Very good question. So, I'd say honestly, since I first moved here, like from the beginning, like I like the city life. It was great, but I always imagined myself out in the middle of nowhere, honestly, because I like having a garden. I like tranquility. I don't like a lot of noise, right? So I think like being out there, it's just kind of like my normal state anyway, right? I grew up, I guess like the suburbs.
Filler words, palabras de relleno. Por ejemplo, like y right. Like es como ¿Viste? Ahí lo usé en español también. Like, como. Los nativos dicen esa palabra todo el tiempo. Like. Realmente no significa nada. Es una palabra de relleno mientras estás pensando. La otra palabra es right. Es como un cierto o un verdad. Right? I like tranquility, right? Me gusta la tranquilidad, ¿cierto? Muy usadas entre los nativos.
So I think like being out there, it's just kind of like my normal state anyway, right? I grew up, I guess like the suburbs, more or less.
Y se escucha como ruido cuando habla, right, pero está diciendo right, cierto. Es como si yo dijera cierto, cuando hablo. Los nativos de inglés murmuran mucho. Ojo para estas palabras.
Right? I grew up, I guess like the suburbs, more or less. And then the place I lived before I moved here, I'm not going to say it's like middle of nowhere, but I was definitely used to having space and, not a lot of noise around me necessarily. So I never really lived in like a huge city anyway. The city was great, but it was always kind of like, all right, I just want to kind of get back to what's comfortable for me, which is like living with space and nature around me and things like that.
Yeah,
so, for sure.
And moving to a new country is hard enough, but you did it in the middle of a global lockdown. So what were some of the biggest cultural surprises that hit you during that time?
It's a really interesting question because like, I really think there are a lot of exceptions to whatever kind of Colombian culture there could have been throughout the pandemic, right? So, I don't think I experienced like Colombian culture tal cual, like exactly as it is, right? But obviously, of course, there's going to be like cultural showcase, right? Like,
yeah.
Okay, so I think the biggest one, and I guess I knew this before because I'm from Florida, we have Latinos around in Florida. I think the biggest one that was like huge, very big difference that in the US, it's like quarantine, you can't be near people, gotta have the mask on 24/7, right? And then like I go to like, grocery shop, like in my little, mercado where I'm at, and no one has masks. Like people are like right next to each other, right on top of each other. And that's Latin America.
Yeah.
That's kind of how it is. So I'd say that was the biggest one, especially for the pandemic.
Yeah.
For sure.
For sure. Muchas de sus oraciones las termina en for sure. Eso significa ciertamente. For sure.
I'd say that was the biggest one, especially for the pandemic.
Yeah.
For sure.
Because it was such a big deal over there.
Oh, for sure.
And here, a big deal significa una cosa grande, algo muy importante. A deal es un trato, y un trato muy grande es algo muy importante. Entonces hay un dicho en inglés que significa a big deal, algo muy importante. Por ejemplo, uno puede decir que una persona es un big deal, ¿ok? That guy is a big deal. Ese hombre es alguien muy importante. A big deal. Because it was such a big deal over there.
Oh, for sure.
And here people took it, well, maybe on the countryside, a little lighter.
Yeah, it could be the case.
Yeah. You're practically fluent in Spanish. Could be the case. Me encanta esa estructura gramatical. Could be. Podría ser. Could be the case. Podría ser el caso. Así podría ser.
Yeah, it could be the case.
Yeah. You're practically fluent in Spanish now.
I think so. It depends on the day. Depends on what we're talking about. But,
Okay.
I feel pretty good with my Spanish.
Okay. Because we all know the language learning process can be brutal. What's been the most humbling moment you've had while learning Spanish?
There's too many to count, man.
Humbling. ¿Qué significa esta palabra? A humbling moment es un momento de humildad. Vas a ver que muchas veces en inglés convierten adjetivos, humble, humilde, a verbos, humbling o to humble, como si fuera humildar. Por ejemplo, ¿qué me humildó? ¿Qué me hizo quedar más humilde? What's been the most humbling moment you've had while learning Spanish?
There's too many to count, man. I think humbling. So I think it's probably when I'm just like daily activities, right? Like I'll go and maybe I need to like order something from somewhere, right? I'll be with my wife and I'll say it in perfect Spanish. I'm fine. And fine. And then like the dude looks at my wife. He's like, so what are we doing? And like he starts talking to her. I'm like, bro, like I'm talking to you. It's fine. So then she'll say literally what I just said. what am I doing wrong? You're like, what's going on, right? So you have like this kind of like assurance you've practiced for a while. Yeah. You're putting it to the test, and then you go and talk to like a real person.
You're putting it to the test. Lo estás poniendo al testeo. Lo estás poniendo a prueba. Su español en este contexto.
Yeah. You're putting it to the test, and then you go and talk to like a real person. You got this thing, and no, you don't.
I got this thing. I got this thing. I got es lo mismo que I have y significa yo tengo. I got this thing significa yo tengo esta cosa, lo cual significa estoy bien, yo sé cómo manejar esta situación.
You got this thing, and no, you don't. So it's like, that was for sure very humbling, like those kinds of experiences.
Yeah.
And there's been many of them. I'm not saying every experience is like that, of course,
yeah.
But like those kinds for sure.
Yeah.
Humbling.
And when they switch to English in the middle of a conversation.
Yeah.
When you clearly show that you speak perfect Spanish.
Yeah, for sure. So, I mean, of course, that hurts to a certain degree. I try not to take it personally. But yeah, like that for sure is like, man, like, am I that bad? Like, you switch it over to English, like, what's going on here? And I get it because there's people that want to practice English, right?
Yeah.
Of course, I'm a gringo, like, just an opportunity, right?
Yeah.
But at the same time, I'm like, dude, I'm just trying to order some food. Like, can we just get this over with? Like, it's okay. Like, we don't have to practice right now.
Can we get this over with? Podemos terminar con esto. Get over with. Terminar. Terminar con. Get over with es un verbo frasal. Significa terminar. Can we get this over with? Podemos terminar con esto.
We just get this over with. Like, it's okay. Like, we don't have to practice right now,
Exactly.
So, depends.
For someone who's gone from beginner to fluent, what's your approach to tackling those tricky advanced nuances in Spanish? Any techniques you swear by?
So I mean, everybody's different. I don't have to tell you that, right? Like everyone has their own kind of struggle within languages. I'd say for me, me encanta esta estructura porque es muy común en inglés y muchos estudiantes no saben lo que está diciendo. I'd say for me significa I would say for me. I, apóstrofe, de, say for me. Este apóstrofe y esa de realmente es la palabra would. I would say for me. Y cada vez que tienes la palabra would en inglés, sabes que es una conjugación como las del español que terminan en ría. I would say, yo diría. I would go, yo iría. I would study, yo estudiaría. Entonces aquí está diciendo, I'd say for me, yo diría por mí. I'd say for me, and I honestly like struggle with this very frequently. It's, any of like the weirder kind of future subjunctive sorts of tenses, those kinds of things where I literally have to calculate things, right? Where like if I don't remember, what's this? So honestly, what I find helpful for me is just to not think about that stuff. It's to really just go straight to it, listen a lot more, like just keep listening as much as I possibly can. And I find that like when I stop listening as frequently, like to other like podcasts or watch movies in Spanish, that's when my Spanish gets worse. It's like when I'm not actively taking in more of the language. So
my Spanish gets worse when I'm not actively taking in the language. Taking in. Tomando hacia adentro, cuando no estoy consumiendo español, cuando no estoy escuchando podcasts, viendo videos, películas, etc., siento que mi español empeora. Esto es muy cierto, chicos. No pueden dejar de consumir inglés, sobre todo no como principiantes, porque van a empezar a olvidar. Los lenguajes son algo muy fresco en la mente, tienen que alimentar a su cerebro todo el tiempo, todos los días con inglés. Estimula ese cerebro tuyo y va a ser agradecido contigo.
That's when my Spanish gets worse. It's like when I'm not actively taking in more of the language. So it's really not about the rules as much. I mean, obviously they're important. Like you got to know the grammar to a certain extent so you don't sound like an idiot when you talk, but like,
it's really not that much about the rules. Quiero hablar de una palabra, really. Really se traduce literalmente a realmente. Realmente no se trata tanto de las reglas, pero en inglés usamos esta palabra más como un tanto, un mucho. No es tan importante las reglas gramaticales. Entonces, cuando escuchas el really, esa es una palabra para enfatizar la oración. Por ejemplo, escucha la diferencia. I like coffee. I really like coffee. No es a mí realmente me gusta el café. No, es a mí me gusta mucho el café. I really like coffee.
It's really not about the rules as much. I mean, obviously they're important. Like you got to know the grammar to a certain extent so you don't sound like an idiot when you talk, but like it only helps to a certain extent. And like now, because most of my work is in English, I've been doing a lot more work that way. I don't spend as much time with Spanish, and it's kind of like, all right, I find myself back to like the bad habits of like calculating grammar, things like that. So, is this an IR verb or AR? See what happens.
Yeah.
Instead of just like listening and speaking,
Very good. I love that. Because the cause of learning is consumption, listening to the language, consuming, reading. And if you spend several weeks or months maybe without listening to the language, you're gonna suffer a little. If you spend weeks or months, if you spend significa gastar. Por ejemplo, podemos decir spend money, gastar dinero. Pero cuando se trata del tiempo, spend significa invertir o pasar. Por ejemplo, if you spend weeks or months without listening to English, you will forget it. Si inviertes o si pasas mucho tiempo, semanas o meses sin escuchar inglés, lo vas a olvidar. And if you spend several weeks or months maybe without listening to the language, you're gonna suffer a little. And it's fantastic because I don't think a lot of native Spanish speakers knows what future subjunctive is.
No.
I don't think. Así es como hacemos oraciones negativas en inglés. En español ustedes dicen, yo no pienso. Yo no pienso. Entonces ustedes han conjugado el verbo pensar en primera persona en tiempo presente. Y en lugar de yo no pensar, ustedes dicen yo no pienso. En inglés no hablamos así, la lógica es diferente, la gramática es diferente. Nosotros decimos I don't think, yo no pensar. Literalmente sería. Y esto es porque usamos el verbo do. Y aquí esta es una oración negativa, entonces usamos don't. I don't think. Yo no pienso. And it's fantastic because I don't think a lot of native Spanish speakers knows what future subjunctive is.
No. Definitely.
But we do, of course, right? Because we try to learn it that way, which is somewhat of a mistake.
Exactly.
If we actually take the more natural approach where we actually consume and we let those rules come to us. The natural approach. Approach en inglés significa enfoque. The natural approach, el enfoque natural. En la estrategia natural del aprendizaje, de consumir inglés en lugar de estudiar reglas y así. Ustedes saben que así es como yo enseño.
Exactly.
If we actually take the more natural approach where we actually consume and we let those rules come to us intuitively, they're gonna flow out as well easier.
Exactly.
I remember there's one phrase in Spanish, se me olvidó, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I always thought you said, yo olvidé,
Uh-huh.
because that's the logical way to conjugate that verb.
Exactly, right?
And people were saying, se me olvidó all the time. And I was like, why the hell are you saying that? Doesn't make any sense at all. And then I was like, it doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense. Empezamos con lo primero. It doesn't make. Make significa hacer. Entonces, si yo digo, it doesn't make, ¿qué estoy diciendo? No hace. Porque no conjugamos ese verbo make. Make significa hacer y en todas las conjugaciones, en todos los tiempos y con todos los sujetos, no lo conjugamos. Simplemente usamos ese verbo modal do. Y ahora, dado que estoy diciendo it, el sujeto it, lo cual son todas las cosas que no son personas, decimos does en lugar de do. Y como es una oración negativa, decimos doesn't. It doesn't make. No hace sense, sentido. It doesn't make sense. No hace sentido. No tiene sentido. Doesn't make any sense at all. And then I was like, I've struggled with that for a long time.
Right.
And then I was like, okay, I'm just going to accept the fact that that's how you say it.
Mm-hmm.
That's how they say it. So I'm going to say it that way. I still don't understand the grammatical, reasoning behind,
Same.
but that's how you do it.
Exactly, right? And there's so many of those phrases where that applies.
So you've helped college students master tough subjects. Did your experience as a teacher give you any unique insights into learning a second language efficiently?
Definitely. I mean, honestly, when I look at things like math and physics and chemistry, I look at it from the lens of language, right? So, because I love languages, I like learning languages in general. And to me, it was just kind of another aspect of speaking another language, right? Now, again, it's not like I'm going to go speak chemistry or something. It's not like a spoken language, but it's like anything. It's like any subject where if you want to understand what you're doing, there is a certain language, there's a certain
Escucha que usa contracciones todo el tiempo. Wanna, gonna. Wanna significa want to, querer. Gonna significa going to. Va a.
It's not like I'm going to go speak chemistry or something. It's not like a spoken language, but it's like anything. It's like any subject where if you want to understand what you're doing, there is a certain language, there's a certain lexicon that you need to be familiar with, right? So what I find with most of my students that do struggle with those kinds of traditionally tough subjects, it really does come down to language almost all the time. And
It does come down to language. Muchas palabras difíciles aquí. It does come down. Come down significa llega a. Cuando él dice it comes down to, quiere decir llega a. Esta cosa llega a. Y cuando él dice it does come down to, entonces está diciendo esto sí llega a. Entonces, cada vez que alguien utiliza do o does en una oración positiva, entonces lo único que están haciendo es simplemente enfatizar el hecho de que sí tal cosa. Por ejemplo, I like coffee. Me gusta el café. I do like coffee. Sí me gusta el café. ¿Ves la diferencia? Es para enfatizar el hecho de que sí me gusta el café. I do like coffee. Por ejemplo, he studies. Él estudia. He does study. Él sí estudia.
It really does come down to language almost all the time. And I can almost see that, like, my students that have a bit more preparation with, I don't know, language in general, you know, they speak other languages, they tend to do a lot better because they can kind of buy into the idea that, oh, I'm just learning some terminology and then I can use my common sense beyond just some basic terms I need to know.
Common sense, sentido común.
And then I can use my common sense beyond just some basic terms I need to know, right? So I think it helps for sure.
Very interesting. So you didn't just adapt to Colombia. You married the very first woman you dated here.
Yeah, thereabouts, you know, I'd say like, yeah, pretty close to that.
What was it like navigating the early stages of a relationship when Spanish wasn't your strongest language yet?
Interesting. I mean, it's, in a lot of ways, it was probably better than...
I mean. Los nativos siempre arrancan las oraciones con I mean. Y eso significa como digo. Digo es otra palabra de relleno que usan cuando están pensando. Digo tal cosa.
Interesting. I mean, it's, in a lot of ways, it was probably better than having navigated the early stages of a relationship in my native language. And I think, you know, I get to think about this a lot, obviously, because on a daily basis, I speak my other language or my second language, right? And I think mostly it's because you have to be very straight to the point. You have to be, like, you can't hide this, right?
Because esta palabra, el porqué del inglés, se pronuncia como si tuviera una Z. Because. Con vibración. Dilo conmigo. Because. Muy bien.
Mostly it's because you have to be very straight to the point. You have to be, like, you can't hide this, right? At least like in American culture, you know, where I'm from at least, we're not very direct in a lot of things, right?
Yeah.
So when you don't have that much vocab, when you can't really be roundabout about things, you have to say things. So I think I was, like, actually very ironically more able to show myself and, like, to express myself and to show who I am in a much more easy. That's basically it.
Because you basically said what came to mind and you didn't think about, you know, how to hide it or how to go around to
exactly right
play any games or things like that. It just
exactly. It's not like, what's this person gonna think of me? It's like I'm not even concerned. I'm just trying to say one.
Yeah. That's fantastic. And what's one thing that being in a relationship with a person from another culture has taught you about love that you might not have learned otherwise?
That's a hard question, honestly. I mean, there's a lot to unpack with that, but I'd say
there's a lot to unpack with that. Me encanta. Súper nativo esta frase. Unpack significa desempaquetar. Entonces, cuando él dice, there's a lot to unpack with that, quiere decir, hay muchas cosas para desempaquetar con eso. Lo cual quiere decir, hay muchas cosas para tomar en cuenta para responder esa pregunta.
There's a lot to unpack with that, but I'd say that language, like spoken language, isn't everything, right? Like I used to think like, oh, you have like a strong connection, you need to talk about these things, and like, no, I don't know. It's just there's some at the risk of sounding corny, but like there's some kind of magic that when you find somebody that you really connect with, language barriers don't really matter that much, right? Like, I mean, to an extent, like you can't like say no, yeah, I can't water, give me, like, no, like that's not gonna work, right?
No.
But you know, like there are languages beyond just spoken languages that you end up sharing with other people. And yeah, there's studies on that where like even native speakers between languages, like they create their own like sub language in their relationship, right?
Yeah.
So, you know, I'd say that that's something that I learned that I didn't really expect.
It didn't matter as much as you thought, maybe.
Yeah,
going into it.
I'd say so.
That's really good.
Yeah.
It didn't matter as much as you had thought. It didn't matter Algo que matter es algo que importa. It doesn't matter significa no importa. ¿Okay? It didn't matter significa no importaba. Did es el pasado de do. It didn't matter as much as you had thought. Thought es el pasado del verbo think, pensar. You had thought significa tú habías pensado. No importaba tanto como habías pensado. Qué oración más difícil, ¿sí o no? Pero esto tú vas a aprender súper rápido cuando sigues consumiendo oraciones de esta forma repetitivamente en las mismas estructuras gramaticales. Entonces el verbo had proviene del verbo have. Had es el pasado de have, ¿cierto? Have significa tener, pero have también significa haber. Entonces, en este contexto es el haber. You had thought. Tú habías pensado. Si yo dijera you have thought, estaría diciendo tú has pensado. It didn't matter as much as you thought. ¿Ves ahí la contracción you apóstrofe de se escucha muy sutil? It didn't matter as much as you thought. No importaba tanto como habías pensado. O no era tan importante como pensabas. It didn't matter as much as you thought, maybe.
Yeah,
Going into it.
That's awesome.
That's really good. Yeah. All right, Marty. Since you've immersed yourself in Colombian culture to Mira, Latina, I want to test your knowledge with a fun little quiz.
All right, let's see.
To see if you've truly mastered the art of dating a Latina or if there's still a few lessons left for you to learn.
Let's see.
Okay?
Probably a lot of lessons.
Let's get started. Question number 1. Latinas are known for their close family ties. What should you do the first time you meet her family? A. Keep things casual. Show up with just yourself and a smile. B. Bring a thoughtful gift, flowers for the mother, perhaps. C. Avoid meeting the family until the relationship is serious.
Ooh. So in my case, it was A. I just kind of showed up and was myself and introduced myself. Maybe I'm lucky, I don't know, but in my case, it was A.
And now you would say?
Probably like C, maybe? I don't know.
Yeah, both wrong. It's B.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Bring a thoughtful gift, flowers for the mother, perhaps.
Interesting.
Yes, yes, always. Am I right? Yeah. Question number 2. When you and your Latina girlfriend are out and another guy, or your Latina wife, are out and another guy tries to hit on her, what's the best way to respond? A. Immediately show your dominance and confront the guy. B. Laugh it off and make light of the situation. She chose to be with you after all. C. Make sure she feels valued and respected and then address it calmly if she feels uncomfortable.
I mean, for me, it's B. I don't know if that's like the Colombian way necessarily, but for me, it's B.
That's wrong as well.
I figured.
Yeah.
Which one is it?
Yeah, I think the B is also the Swedish way. Yeah. No, it's C. For sure.
Okay.
C. Make sure she feels valued and respected and then address it calmly if she feels uncomfortable.
Oh, fair enough.
Is that right? No opinion? All right. Question number 3. Say it's your Latina girlfriend's or wife's sister's birthday. How long do you have to wait before you can leave the party? A. 30 minutes if you're not into it. B. Until the cake is cut. C. Until the very end.
Until the very end.
Correct.
Yeah, that one I've learned.
Correct. You've learned that.
Oh,
yeah. So leaving early is a big no-no, especially on a special occasion. Last question. You're running late to a date with your Latina girlfriend. How should you handle it? A. Text her saying you're on your way and apologize profusely. B. Show up with a small gift or sweet gesture to smooth things over. C. Don't worry. Being fashionably late is expected and doesn't need an explanation.
Honestly, I think it's C. In my experience and everyone else I've spoken to, it seems like C is about the right answer, but you tell me.
Yeah, it's not C.
It isn't? Wow. Which one is it?
B.
Oh, wow.
Yes, a sweet gesture to smooth things over. Yes.
Interesting.
Yeah. That was 1 out of 4.
Oof.
Yeah.
And I got a lot to go.
Yeah.
Well,
You seem to be doing okay anyways.
I think so. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Pretty all right.
All right. So, Marty, you're a musician. Has living in Latin America influenced your taste in music at all?
Yeah, I think so. I like the reggaeton before I moved here, but like I've gotten a lot more into it.
You did?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I really liked like Bad Bunny because that's really what I heard a lot more in Florida.
Okay.
But obviously, like reggaeton is huge here, so like, yeah, you kind of have to get into it, right?
Yeah.
But I mean, I love music in general. I like all genres. So but I'd say reggaeton was probably the big one, and then some of like the Colombian genres. I mean, vallenato, I have like a love-hate relationship with. I like it. It's fine. It's just that we had this really bad experience where we were in the car for like 4 hours and it was nothing but vallenato. And I mean, accordion's like a very strong instrument and it just like kind of grates on you after a bit. So like
You have a vallenato trauma.
a little bit, I'd say so, right? You know, and again, I like it. I can still listen to it, but it's like, all right, be like 10 minutes. All right, let's change it up a little bit, right?
Yeah.
Or vallenato without like accordion.
Let's change it up a little bit. Let's change it up. To change it up significa cambiarlo. También podría haber dicho, let's change it a little bit. Pero change it up, agregando esa última palabra, up, arriba, agrega un toque diferente, porque change es como intercambiar. Change it up es como alternar, probar cosas nuevas, puede significar más cosas. Y estas sutiles diferencias en las expresiones y en los verbos vas a aprender con el consumo. No te preocupes si esto fue muy difícil para ti, sigue consumiendo el inglés y de repente te va a salir un let's change it up a little bit, un poquito.
Let's change it up a little bit, right?
Yeah.
Or vallenato without like accordion.
Or vallenato if you're really drunk.
Or that too, you know.
Yes. Drunk, borracho. Accordion es ese instrumento, este instrumento.
Or vallenato without like accordion.
Or vallenato if you're really drunk.
Or that too, you know.
Yes.
That works.
Then it works.
Sure. Well, I think llanera, like música llanera is probably my favorite genre.
Okay.
For sure.
If you could go back and give pre-pandemic Marty some advice, knowing everything you know now about living abroad, learning Spanish, and even cross-cultural love, what would you say?
You should have done this sooner. Probably about it, you know.
You should have done this sooner. Tú deberías haber hecho esto más temprano. That's probably about it. That's probably about it. Eso creo que es suficiente. That's probably about it. Eso ya es.
You should have done this sooner. Probably about it, you know.
Great answer. Yeah. And finally, you walked a unique path from helping students pass exams to mastering a new language to marrying and building a life in Colombia. What's the next adventure for you?
So I mean, I'm developing my business here, doing the same kind of thing, but kind of on my own sort of terms at this point. So I'd say that, like, really just grinding hard, learning more subjects that I can teach the people, and see how far I can go with the business to hopefully retire very shortly.
Marty cometió un error en su inglés. No puede ser. Dijo, so I can teach. Entonces los nativos también cometen errores cuando hablan, chicos. Es muy normal. No te preocupes por tus errores. Sigue consumiendo. Abraza la imperfección. Nadie es perfecto. Ni siquiera los nativos.
Learning more subjects that I can teach the people, and see how far I can go with the business to hopefully retire very shortly. That's the goal.
Great. Fantastic. And before we go, one last thing. Please look into this camera over here and tell us about where people can find you. Where can people connect with you and follow your life and your projects?
Great. So crambetter.com is my business. That's where you go to get any help that you need on college. Really any of those like weed out subjects if you're interested in that stuff. Otherwise, you can find me on Instagram, Analog Ghost, if you want to see the music stuff that I do. It's spelled the British way with the UE at the end, so weird as an American. And that's basically it. So yeah, find me over there.
Thanks a lot, Marty.
Much appreciated.
Really appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks.
Entonces, ¿cómo te fue? ¿Te gusta este estilo de entrevista y reacción? Cuéntame en los comentarios lo que te parece este estilo de video. Y si te gustaría ver más videos como este, no olvides darle like al video, suscríbete al canal para que no pierdas futuros videos y cuéntame también abajo en los comentarios si te gustaría ver algún invitado en especial. Que tú veas el video y que nos dejas un like nos ayuda algo enormemente a que los videos nuestros alcancen más latinos que necesitan aprender inglés y nos ayudas en nuestra misión de trabajar hacia un mundo donde no hay una sola persona que no hable inglés. Ahora, si te gustaría aprender inglés directamente conmigo, recuerda que tenemos una prueba de 2 semanas en mi curso de inglés. Dentro del curso enseñamos a través de historias interactivas, que es muy parecido a aprender a través de conversaciones. Pruébalo por 2 semanas y luego tomas tu decisión. Tenemos varios diferentes planes de pagos que puedes elegir dependiendo de tu economía. Con tu compra tienes acceso de por vida, entonces no te preocupes si no tienes mucho tiempo para estudiar. Avanzas por las clases a tu propio ritmo, según tu propio horario. También tendrás acceso a nuestra comunidad de estudiantes donde hacemos clases en vivo cada semana y tienes acompañamiento 24/7 por nuestro equipo. Y además, tienes una garantía de fluidez. Cuando termines el curso, garantizamos que eres 100% fluido o te devolvemos el doble de lo que pagas por el curso. Toda la información está abajo en la descripción. Haz clic en el enlace que está allá, revisa toda la información y espero verte dentro de Rayo. Y otra cosa, todas las actualizaciones del curso están incluidas gratis. Esta no es la universidad, no tienes que seguir pagando, pagas una sola vez y eso te incluye acceso de por vida con todas las actualizaciones.